Sweet.
If it makes you feel alright, I'll get you anything, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I don't care too much for money, money can buy me love. I'll give you all I got to give if you say you love me too. I may not have a lot to give, but what I got I'll give to you. Oh, I don't care too much for money, money can buy me love, can buy me love. Everybody tells me so, can buy me love. No, 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 no. Say you don't need no diamond ring and I'll be satisfied. Tell me that you want the kind of thing that money just can't buy. Oh, I don't care too much money, money can't buy me love.
There we go.
Ah.
Okay, now I'm going to jump ahead because I can see that you're not back for a while. So
Yeah, this is well, they went off. They went crazy. Having a moment here. We're having a moment there.
yeah, that's what I like, space.
You know.
Everybody tells me so, can't buy me love. No, 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 no. Say you don't need no diamond ring and I'll be satisfied. Tell me that you want the kind of thing that money just can't buy. I don't care too much money, money can't buy me love. I don't care too much for money. Money can't buy me love.
Yes.
Uh,
Is that Jeffrey Keezer?
That's Jeffrey Keezer.
Yeah.
Uh,
And who else is in the band? Peter Sprague on guitar.
and Justin Grinnell on bass and Julian Cantelm on drums.
Very cool. Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Roland. Yeah, I know he's a great singer, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, trippy guitar. Well, that's Peter Sprague, Roland. You've seen Peter Sprague, I'm sure. Um, yeah. So Leonard Patton is a person who I have been wanting to know better for a long time. I've heard of him for a long, long time. Probably, I guess, through Peter, right?
I've heard of you too. I stalk you. Don't even worry about it. I stalk you.
And you know,
Everybody stalks each other, you know.
and you know, it's I mean, it's true. There's not a huge amount of great guy singers. I mean, and I know a lot of them, but there's probably a lot more out there that I don't know of. But um, yeah, I was just hanging out and listening to Kenny Washington.
Yeah,
He's a great.
yeah. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's great.
He was down here and singing, doing a double gig with a girlfriend of mine, Calabria Foti.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I was just wow.
Yeah.
It was great.
Kenny.
And he
Kenny's
keeps getting better and better, actually.
Kenny is amazing.
Yeah,
I think he's somebody that everybody should know.
I
Like more
think
people
so too.
know. He's incredible.
He actually does not have a booking agent.
That's crazy.
It is crazy because he does get these high level gigs. He sang at Lincoln Center with Winton and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, he should have somebody good, to really get him out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Leonard Patton, you're a great singer. I want to know how you got to be so great. And are you are you originally from San Diego?
Pretty much since I was 5 years old. So,
Oh,
I was born in LA, but I grew up in San Diego. So
yeah,
pretty much San Diego all my life.
yeah. And was singing always something you wanted, like when you were a kid, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it since I was a kid. You don't know what you want until you're doing it sometimes. I mean, I was, singing in choirs, singing in church, and kind of always around it because my dad was involved in it. And he sang in a gospel group and he managed another female gospel group. So earliest memories of being in the studio and doing, watching my dad. So I was always a part of it. Choirs were a big part of me in school and middle school, high school, like a big, big thing. So that's kind of where it started. I don't think at any time growing up, I never seriously was like, am I going to do this as a career? You're just doing it and involved in it. And then before you know it, like it's a discovery. So yeah.
However, I have to say, my granddaughter is expecting to be a famous singer. So,
Hey,
she's,
some people have that, some people have that
you know,
expectation when they're young, and not everybody does. Some people see it, know it,
yeah,
and some people are doing it, but they don't know it until like, oh, wait a second, okay,
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it. So
Yeah. Well, I think the joy, because I also sang from when I was, a baby, and but I think the joy of doing it is just keeps you going, and then
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. I mean, if somebody, usually outside people say, "Are you going to be a singer?" You know,
yeah,
shit like that. But I mean, for me, when I was really young, like around 5, I would go to big band rehearsals with my dad. My dad was
yeah,
a sax player, and that the feeling of the music and the musicians, that was attractive to me. And then
Yeah.
I was already singing, and I had two older sisters who sang, and so growing up doing it and having fun and
Hmm.
having it feel good, you know, I think that's a big attraction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So uh, did you kind of break away from, or maybe you didn't break away from gospel and the choirs and kind of do a solo thing more?
Um, it's a good, well, I mean, I've never really break, I still sing gospel, and I, I don't, I mean, I don't sing in choirs anymore. I love choirs. I always say, if, um, there's a choir, in a college here in San Diego that next year they're going to do Carmina Burana. And I'm like, man, I'll just come in just to sing that because I love, Carl Orff, Carmina Burana. I will jump back in a choir just to sing that. Um, but no, after high school, I went to a school in San Diego called United States International University. They're no longer there. They kind of went bankrupt or something, um, in like the latter 90s. So, and now they're a totally different school, but they had an amazing performing arts department. My first major was musical theater. So I was majoring in musical theater. Um, and, but I was taking, my voice teacher was really more of an opera guy. So I was studying, more classical technique, at this school while I was doing musical theater. This is before I even really, um, like truly discovered jazz. Um, even though even though there were things I listened to growing up, and you look for, you go forward and you look back, and it's like, oh yeah, it was kind of imprinted in me already in certain ways. But um, so that there was that, and then after that school, I went to a community college in San Diego called Mesa Community College, and I applied for the classical music applied music program, and I got into that. But one of the professors, his name is James Romeo. He directed the big band, so he asked me if I wanted to sing with the big band. So fall of
Yeah.
1991, I started singing with the big band, and at the same time, same semester, I started taking jazz history.
Oh,
But that's kind of where everything happened for me.
yeah.
First chart I sang was um, Joe Williams' "Every Day I Have the Blues." So that's the first big band chart I sang.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it happened, fall of 91. Um, and then my first professional gig was literally that following January. I wasn't trying to find gigs yet. I was just trying to do this thing. But one of the sax players in the big band got me a gig, and it was a big band thing at a hotel in San Diego, and some of the who's who of jazz in San Diego, and we did a few of my charts in from the big band and at the college with this gig. So that was my first professional paid gig in January of 1992.
Wow. It's not that long ago.
Not that long ago, 1992. That's a long time
Only,
ago.
only what, 30 years or something?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah,
Anything before 2000, my mind goes, that's not that long ago. But
yeah.
I guess 30 years is a long time.
Yeah.
um, so okay, so then you then what happened? Something happened.
So yeah, so then I kind of while I was going to this community college, um, I I basically started immersing myself in this music, and I was going to 3 or 4 nights a week. I was going to see live music, And if I was broke, I'd figure it out and try to get there. I would go 3 or 4 nights a week. And also at this school, they would bring visiting artists in to perform. That's where I first met or first saw Peter Sprague play. Peter Sprague brought his quartet and he played. And so, then I would go follow him around town and watch him play. And then, do you know Holly Hoffman? Have you had her on? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So she was running the Horton Grand Hotel, which was one of the main venues at that time, bringing in legends like Ray Brown and Joe Pass and Joe Henderson and Cassandra Wilson, and it was like, and plus local people too. Yeah. I mean, it was the place, one of the 2 or 3 main places at that time, and I would go there at least a couple of nights a week, and and I started doing some. I started doing some, local like coffee house gigs with musician friends. And then I kind of like made it a goal. I was like, okay, this was probably 1992, like fall of 92. I said, my goal is I'm gonna play here in a year. And so come 93, I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, I think I want to go and try to transfer to Berkeley. And so what I did was I was like, okay, I'm gonna put a audition demo, one that goes to Holly at the Horton Grand, and the same one that goes to Berkeley. So this was June of 93. Out of the blue, I called Peter Sprague because his number was in the phone book, actually. So I called him about doing, because he had a studio. So I called him about doing a recording, and originally I was just thinking duo, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm going to send one to Holly at the Horton Grand, and I'm going to send one to Berkeley. And then he's like, cool. He hadn't heard me yet. And then he's like, why don't you get bass? Why don't you call Bob Magnuson? And so I called Bob Magnuson. And so I had a demo, 2 songs with Peter and Bob Magnuson. And
nice.
So I sent it off to Berkeley, and I sent one to Holly, and she was leaving town, and she came back in town. So one, ultimately I got accepted into Berkeley, so that's one. But then Peter actually called me for my first gig with him. So this is June of 93. He called me for a gig for August of 93. So 2 months later. And so I did my first gig with Peter, which was a big deal, at this place in Del Mar, San Diego. Are you familiar with Del Mar, San Diego?
Just very little.
Yeah. And this place called Powerhouse Park. It's this big park outside. So it was like a summer thing. And ultimately this place, like we got there, we're setting up. And before we know it, we started playing, this place was packed. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So my first gig with Peter, and this place was packed. Well, coincidentally, at that time, Holly was, she's married to Mike Wofford now, but at that time she was, I think, going out with one of the food server guys at Horton Grand.
Okay.
And she just happened, she had no idea that Peter was playing that day. She happened to be with him, this guy, going to dine at this restaurant that's right there. She had no idea Peter was there. she saw me, and she said she got the demo, so she stayed. They and caught a good part of the first set before they went in to dine. So this whole thing, how this worked, it's like she also got to hear me live,
Wow.
as well as hearing the demo. So she comes to me, she says, "You ready for a Thursday night at the Horton Grand?" So that's kind of how all of this kind of happened. And then,
Wow, that's cool.
yeah.
So that kept going. I mean, when I listen to your singing, I hear a very seasoned, experienced jazz singer who's had, lots of time to experiment and experiment.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, I'm kind of asking about that. But so from that point on, you were just doing jazz gigs and probably other gigs too, right?
Yeah, so I would do jazz gigs, and then I started doing, before you know it, I was gigging a lot. With Peter was calling me for a lot of gigs,
Yeah.
and I was getting gigs with other people. But I would go from pretty much from then on. Anytime I went to a gig where like Holly was playing or Peter was playing, and I was just attending, they'd always bring me up to sit in, like always. Like I would go like every time I went to the Horton Grand, and Holly was playing or Peter was playing. That was cool because sometimes Holly would have people coming down from LA. So I got a chance to sit in and play with some really, really good people. So it was a growing and learning on the bandstand
Yeah.
from these professionals, learning a lot from just the professionalism side of things, being prepared and all of this, just learning all of that stuff and just kind of going for it, and kind of they like that the fact that I would just kind of go for it. And I was really, so with Berklee, I had a friend who went there the year before. I had him send me like some of the harmony books and things. I wanted to get, I had already had quite a bit of theory and stuff and ear training from schools. It was primarily classical, but still like the ear training was invaluable.
Yeah.
So I was diving into jazz theory and harmony and stuff, and I wanted to be prepared. So I was, when I went to Berklee, I was actually able to test into like the
higher,
or the higher
yeah,
ear training and the higher harmony classes, which is great.
yeah,
So I was immersed. There was a handful of years where I was really immersed in it,
yeah.
and just trying to learn as much as possible.
So how long were you at Berklee?
I was only there for a year. I went there in 94, 95. And for me at that time, everybody's different. At that time, I wanted to come back home.
Yeah.
It's just, it had nothing to do with the school. It had nothing to do. I loved my time there. I loved being in Boston. At that time, I wanted to come home, and it was the right thing for me at that time. Because I ended up I got married in 1998, so everything worked out great. But in that year, I like I said, the first semester I tested in a higher level ear training harmony, and I got to take some elective classes. I petitioned to get in a couple of classes that are hard to get into, because I'm like, what? If I'm paying the money, I'm going to get into, these classes. There's one professor there, Ed Thomasy. Do you know him?
No, I don't.
He had this class that are harmonic concepts of improvisation or something like that. I forget what it was called. And so I wanted to get in that class because everybody wanted to get in that class. It was hard to get, and it was not a class that usually even like singers took. I'm like, I'm going to take this class. So I sought him out. I talked to him, and he got me into class. So, so it was cool. So I made the most. I feel I got, a couple years worth.
Yeah.
That 1 year.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing for me.
That's great. I went to Berkeley too.
Yeah.
I went when I was 20, 19 or 20, 19, something like that. And they didn't have voice at the time.
Yeah.
So I took flute and then, did my thing. But it was good for me because it was kind of the first time that I got involved with the jazz community other than my dad's.
Yeah.
And so I really got to feel what that felt like. I got to, in those days, handwrite arrangements.
Yes, of course.
And and it was great. I was singing, but that wasn't part of the curriculum. And so that was a really good step in my development,
Yeah.
But over the years, I felt like I had wished, like a bucket list kind of thing, I wished I had really gotten into arranging.
Yeah.
Because I really like that. But I always felt along the way that I had missed theory, like a good
Yeah.
theory. So I don't know, maybe when I slow down. I don't think I'm slowing down. But I don't know. Maybe it's a bucket list thing. So you came back and
Yeah.
and then you got married. This was now we
Yeah. I
entering
was
into
still, when I
2000.
came back, I did more school. At some point I thought I was going to do music therapy, so I was doing some of that and then I didn't finish. I pretty much between 1988 and 1998, I did a lot of school, and then didn't end up getting a degree. Ultimately got a degree later. But then I got married, I stopped school, and I was working professionally, and I was working quite a bit. So I didn't need school at the time. So, fast forward 2007, I was like, man, I want to get my degree. I just, unfinished business. And it wasn't a need so much. But I was like, I might want to, teach at a college or something. So I was like, I need to find a place where I can get my degree the quickest as possible. Just get it done. So I went to Cal State University, San Marcos, which is North County, San Diego. And I was able to get it done in a year. So this was like, when I decided this was like April, and I'm like, okay, I had most of my general ed done, but I had a few, so I had to take a couple condensed classes. I had to look at every community college in town. I was like, okay, here's an 8-week condensed blah, blah, blah. And then I went to Cal State University, San Marcos. They pretty much checked me out of most of stuff, and it was cool. So then I got my bachelor's in 2008. Momentum took me to get my master's. So I got my master's at San Diego State University.
Wow.
Which, and they had an amazing jazz program. Rick Helzer was one of the professors. They didn't have a vocal. And I was like, I had a lot of vocal, and I didn't want to, they had a vocal classical program, but I was like, I didn't want to do that. I had enough of that. So we me and the professors, we kind of created it. So I'm the first one to graduate with a master's in vocal jazz from San Diego State University, because we just created it.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I ended up studying with, but there was no voice teachers there. I studied with horn players. So I was focusing more on the improv. So I studied. There's one saxophone player I studied with several semesters. I studied with a trumpet player for a couple semesters. I studied with Rick Helzer for a little while. So I was getting more the improv stuff from them, because I had quite a bit of vocal technique stuff. And so I and there was nobody there that taught vocal jazz. And so it's like, that was the way to go.
Yeah. um, yeah, that's a really interesting path
Yeah.
you've had. Really interesting. So, okay, so you finish your master's when?
And so that was 2010.
2010, which really
Yeah.
wasn't that long ago.
That's really, yeah, really wasn't long ago.
Actually, that is a lot closer, right? Wow.
Yeah.
So, then now you have kind of a, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I remember one time I did this amazing record project with Peter Erskine and Mark Johnson and
Yeah.
this guy, Philip
Yeah.
Strange. And
Mhm.
right after I did it, I was depressed for about a year. And I finally realized that I just didn't have a new game. That was like the height of, of the moment. And
Yeah.
then, there was nothing. So I don't know if you felt like that after your master's, but did you feel like, wow, now what am I going to do?
I felt, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Like I set out to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And it was great. Because I did my master's while like working full time,
Yeah.
kids, it was crazy busy life, but it was a cool sense of accomplishment. I did my first solo album 2008, the year I started my master's. In
Yeah.
fact, I released it, I believe it was like the end of July. It was like July 2008, and then month and a half later I was in school. So that was cool. And then I did my next project, which was a duo album with Jeffrey Keyser, 2011. So it was basically I graduated 2000. It was basically December 2010, and then that following fall, I did my next record. So I was always thinking about what the next thing was.
Yeah.
Not necessarily waiting for the what's next, just kind of doing and figuring out as I go.
Yeah. Is Jeffrey from San Diego too?
No, he lived here for a while. He in fact, during that time, he was living here for a handful of years, a few years. And then he moved back to LA. He's back in New York now, but he was here for a little while.
Okay. So I'm following along. You're obviously a person who is able to handle a lot of action around you and move forward and still be conscious.
Or maybe I'm unconscious.
Whatever, it's working. And then obviously you were just learning and growing and doing music all this whole time, and you were in leaps and bounds because, as I said, now you sound like, even just from that one video, that's really, it shows how much is inside of you. Let's put it that way,
Trying.
My friend posted LP, your group.
Yeah.
What?
LP and the Vinyl?
Yeah, what is that group?
Yeah, so that's a group with myself and 3 other local musicians. Actually, 2 of the musicians in that video, the bass player, the drummer, the bass player, Justin Grinnell, drummer, Julian Quintelme, and then a local piano player, Danny Green.
Oh, yeah.
You know Danny Green?
I
Yeah.
don't know him.
Yeah. So we have a group, LP and the Vinyl. We do some, in fact, we're leaving to Colorado on Sunday for 5 days to play. So we do a little touring here and there. yeah, we do some originals. We take it's a cool group because we'll take like pop tunes, rock tunes, and arrange them for more of we'll make these more jazz arrangements of them, and it's quite cool. It's a cool group.
Yeah. I might be able to hear some of this music.
I think you can, I think you can pull it up. We have some videos that we actually recorded in the studio.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
See that. I may see that. I think I first met Danny. I was booking a venue here downtown. Actually, Peter came up with Rebecca,
Oh, okay.
and but
Rebecca
I,
Jade.
huh?
Rebecca Jade.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but Danny came up too, I believe. So video. Here we go. Video. Okay. I don't know what to pick.
Wow. Let's see. I'm like looking forward. What does this say?
Oh, there's more.
Uh,
Well, I mean, I'd like to hear something. Is this? I can't help it. I can't help it if I.
yeah.
Let's hear that.
Okay.
Looking in my mirror took me by surprise. I can't help but see you running often through my mind, helpless like a baby, sensual disguise. I can't help but love you. It's getting better all the time. I can't help it. If I wanted to, I wouldn't help it. Even if I could, can't help it. If I wanted to, wouldn't help it. No, I can't help it. If I wanted to, wouldn't help it. Even if I could, can't help it. If I wanted to, wouldn't help it. No.
I love this chart. It's great.
Yeah.
Love to run my fingers softly while you sigh. Love came and possessed you, bringing sparkles to your eyes, like a trip to heaven. Heaven is the prize. Now I'm so glad I found you, girl. You're an angel in disguise. I can't help it. If I wanted to, wouldn't help it. Even if I could, I can't help it. If I wanted to, wouldn't help it. No, I can't help it. If I wanted to, wouldn't help it. Even if I could, I can't help it. If I wanted to, wouldn't help it. No. I can't help but see you running often through my mind, helpless like a baby, sensual skies. I can't help but love you. It's getting better all the time. I can't help it if I wanted to, wouldn't help it even if I could. I can't help it if I wanted to, wouldn't help it. No, I can't help it if I wanted to, wouldn't help it even if I could. I can't help it if I wanted to, wouldn't help it. No, I can't help it if I wanted to, wouldn't help it even if I could. I can't help it if I wanted to, wouldn't help it. No, I can't help it if I wanted to, wouldn't help it even if I could. I can't help it if I wanted to, wouldn't help it. No.
Nice. Tally's is a great studio, huh?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I've done a bunch of work there. Did you recognize it, Dan? My friend Dan. So, I have a question, an interesting question.
Yeah.
So,
I like interesting questions.
yeah, this is a singer question.
Yeah.
And oh, really? Oh, that's interesting, Dan. Dan says the ironic part is you guys were recording when I was recording Dreamsville with Josh Nelson and Larry Kuntz there.
Hey, that's cool.
Isn't that wild? Cool.
Very-
So, well, I've done a bunch of different styles,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And actually, Peter was influential for me for that because Peter, along the way, was doing all these different things, these different
Yes.
projects. And I
Yeah.
remember actually asking him about that, like, how do you sell yourself? Like there's one, Joe Schmo likes when you sing free. And then Bob sings when you like straight. So here you're doing a straight gig. Do you tell Joe Schmo? you know,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
if
yeah,
Joe Schmo shows up on the gig, is he going to hate it? Or.
yeah, yeah,
So I remember talking to Peter about that, and I can't remember his exact answer, but it was inclusive. It was like
yeah,
we can do whatever we want. We're artists. We can.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so kind of along those lines, um, but specifically when you're recording a song like that song, because
yeah,
I have this record, Social Anthems, which I took some of my favorite songs from,
yeah,
the period and had them rearranged and such. But some of them come out like, I guess I want to know if you gave it much thought, how you were going to sing it and or arrange it, but not necessarily that if somebody else was arranging it. But were you going to sing it straight? Like, were you going to sing the real melody, or were you going to jazz it up, or did you give much thought to that? Because I think that's an interesting question for singers, especially now, because a lot of singers have been doing these songs, right?
yeah. You know what? I think for me, because I've done I've done I've sung songs where it's like we don't do it much differently. We just do it slightly, and then there's tunes that we like taking it and
Yeah.
turn it upside down. And especially with stuff with Peter, we've done a lot of different things, a lot of different tributes. Sometimes we do a tune that we don't really do much with it, but then I always start with the place of where the melody is from its original place. I just start there, but then I take, sometimes I think about how does this song feel differently? For instance, like just from taking a song that's normally swing and making it bossa nova,
Yeah.
how and you're taking the same melody. how's this feel? It feels different rhythmically. It's you approach it differently, even though you're singing pretty much the same notes. It's the same concept. It's like, how does this song feel slowed down, sped up, stretched out? Like what, it's, and so how you approach the melody, at least from my perspective, will differ between which direction it ultimately goes.
Yeah.
It's, for me, it's not about, I'm going to just try to drastically do something crazy with this tune. That's not where my mind goes initially. It's like, how do I realize this tune differently? And so
Kind of personalize it, right?
yeah. And a lot of times it just starts with the tempo, just altering the tempo. Sometimes it's like, okay, this song is normally grooved. I want to keep it grooved. What if you swing it? What if you do this? You just take it and put it in different contexts. And sometimes things just feel right. You find what feels good. You don't force anything. It just, what feels right for that tune. For me, it's just exploring.
Yeah. Well, that song, for instance, is so iconic and it's so
Yeah.
great. It's a
Yeah.
great,
Yes.
and just I mean, I don't know how it could be really changed
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good,
Well, and the thing about it is, it's like the melodically, I didn't do much different with that song. There's the arrangement that's around it, and Danny Green
Beautiful.
arranged that. But it's like the melody actually is still the same. It changes, it stretches. We go into that after the solo. We go into that 6/8 for a moment,
Yeah.
and then so it's like you got to sing the melody differently according to the 6/8.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's kind of cool to be able to sometimes just, hey, the melody pretty much is mostly the same, and everything else around it shifts, and so it's still recognizable, even though things are doing this, which is nice.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel too about singing standards with somebody.
Yeah.
If it's a gorgeous player and they're doing beautiful harmonies and substitutions and stuff, the melody is just perfect.
Yeah. The melody is, yeah.
And phrasing, of course,
Yeah.
so, and that we can learn from Brazilians too, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
they sing the melody mostly.
Yeah.
But they phrase
They phrase
and they feel.
and they feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do Brazilian music as well?
I do. Yeah, I did. I mean, I've done with Peter, I've done a lot of Brazilian stuff over the years. I just did a tribute several months ago to the music of Javon.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I love all kinds of Brazilian music. Yeah.
This year I was supposed to go to California Brazil camp,
Yeah.
and I got COVID.
Oh.
I couldn't believe it
Oh.
because I hadn't gotten COVID for all this time, and then
Yeah.
so that was that. But maybe I'm hoping next year I go because I really would like to be ensconced in that whole,
Yeah.
really just allow it to get into my DNA.
Mhm.
Roland said you do Brazilian music beautifully. Well, Roland, I'm we'll listen in a little while. Um, so I can see you're on Facebook too.
Yeah, I'm like, it's nice to be able to respond.
It is because otherwise I have to tell you everything.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Oh, and Dan posted your website so people can go and buy Roland because Roland always buys stuff, and so does Dan. So, okay. So here's a really interesting subject to me
Yeah.
because I really like to create venues. You have a venue. Wow.
Yeah.
So now I read about that. It seems that you had a supporter who backed you and kind of an anonymous supporter. I don't know if they're still anonymous, but, and then, is that correct?
So well, which article did you read? The Union-Tribune one?
Maybe.
Okay. There's there's an article, a Union-Tribune article. Actually, if you go to the website, I
Yeah.
put a link of that article that was written at the beginning of this year. So um, yeah, pretty much. Well, the this place is owned by a lady, a friend of mine, who's also a singer, and she owns this strip of these 5 businesses. And this is something we've been talking about for a couple of years. And she contacts me April of 2020 after pandemic started and says, the light bulb people are moving out June 1st. Do you still want it? And I ultimately did. So I went in, obviously wasn't opening up to people in 2020, but I got the space and started doing work over time. And I started doing live streams in here when it was still like concrete and echoey, but I was doing live streams because the first thing I put in here was my fiber internet. So priorities. It's like that's the very first thing I did. So then ultimately last year, July 1st was when I opened up to people.
Uh-huh.
So it's been a little over a year since we've been open.
Excuse me.
That's,
Very loud sneezes.
that's okay. That's okay. Do what you got to do.
So this is where you are right now, right?
This is
And
where
it's called the Jazz Lounge, right?
yeah.
Yeah. He's going to show us or something. Oh, wow. That looks like a really cool space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Wow. It's kind of on the smaller side, but it's big on the smaller side. I mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah. About 40 people with tables, intimate place. Um, if this were a New York jazz club, they'd try to jam more tables and seats in here because they, in a New York club, they try to jam as many.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm like, no, it's the perfect amount.
Yeah.
It's good.
So, okay. So, I'm just relating it to how I would do it, you know.
Yeah.
So you get in there, you fix it up. You're fixing it up over time.
Yeah.
You put in internet, you start streaming. You start probably a bunch of different musicians wanted to come and stream, right?
Yeah. We had, I just here and there, different musicians, different people, and it was cool. Because it was easy to do. And streaming from here, there's like never any issue because it's the business fiber. It's so fast. There's no, it's just never an issue,
Yeah, yeah.
which
And
is
then
nice.
you started you started like having music, what, like every night or a few nights a week or
So ultimately, when we opened up, we started doing pretty much every week. How it varies. It's been sometimes 2 nights. There's been certain weeks where there's been 5 nights. It just depends on what we get booked and trying to, so, ultimately want to get it where it's regularly 5 nights or 6 nights, but like we don't force book anything. And also too, a lot of people were because things were opening up and a lot of people were taking gigs. So it wasn't like, a lot of people were working. So just to try to book, everybody was taking a lot of gigs, and there were still musicians who were still kind of not playing for a while. I mean, there's some musicians that are this year just started playing, indoor gigs. They just were and being more careful. Um, so I wasn't trying to force book or, just do what you can and just try to be as consistent as possible.
Yeah. And I won't ask you details here, but so the money stuff is cool and it flows and everybody's happy with all that.
As best as, yeah, doing as best as you can, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we have good nights and some nights that are not as good, and that's it's a process to get it going and consistent, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have liquor also?
We don't have our liquor license yet. I'm waiting for this new bill, that I think, it's this SB 793. They're creating this new music venue license. It's pretty much passed through each thing this year, and so I think ultimately, I think probably in November it'll be an official thing, because in the past, music venues have to get the same kind of license that restaurants get. And those are harder to get.
Is this for
Same thing with bar.
entertainment as opposed to food or including
What
liquor?
what it is what it is. This new bill. It's the same kind of license. It's similar to what theaters have, to where you can serve alcohol 2 hours before the event and an hour after, which is perfect. We're not, you're, as a venue, you're not a bar, you're not trying to
Yeah.
sell alcohol all day.
Right. Right.
This is not people walking up off the street
Yeah.
to get a drink. No, it's for the events. Um,
Ah,
so that's happening. That looks like it's been pretty unanimous throughout. So that looks like that's going to be happening. It's going to be an easier license to get.
is this
Uh,
all of California or
yeah, all of California, all of California.
really
Yeah,
interesting? And
yeah,
that license is easier to get than
yes, easier to get. Yeah,
and less expensive probably.
yeah. So I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
That should be, like I said, we're almost in October, so I think in a little over a month we'll know that it'll be hopefully an official thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Really cool. I
yeah.
haven't.
I've been following that over the past year. So
Wow. I'm sorry. Will you tell me the name of that license again?
it's it's the bill. It's SB 793. That's not the only thing that's on that bill. There's other things. But
Uh-huh.
if you look up SB 793, type in music venue license, and I think that on the liquor license is like type 90. That it would be the new thing, type 90. So that's kind of where that is.
Wow. That's very
Yeah,
cool. That's really interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's another bucket list thing I have going,
yeah,
in my
yeah.
mind, I have a friend who's a singer, but she's also a really good photographer.
Oh,
And
cool.
she and I throw around the idea of creating a space that has, different art forms in it.
Yeah,
And so that might come into handy
yes.
if that were to happen. I mean, I'm just kind of talking out the side of my mouth, but
Hey, just make it happen.
it can happen. Anything can happen, right?
Absolutely.
That's why you're my kind of guy, because anything can happen. I remember when I first started this venue that Danny played at and Peter played at.
Yeah,
It was downtown, across from Disney Hall,
yeah,
inside a really good vegan, raw food place,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
vegan place, I guess. And you go into the back and you open these doors, and there's this club.
yeah,
Really nice. So I ran the jazz there for 2.5 years.
yeah,
It was great. But when I first asked like a player I admire, he said, oh, and there was parking below, but you had to pay $7. So
yeah,
anyway, he said, oh, people will never pay $7 to park. And I'm like, what? Yes, they will. Come
yeah,
on, jazz is, you don't have to treat jazz like it's it's
yeah,
it's the bad child in the
yeah,
choir. It's like, Yeah, like, yeah, it deserves like a cover charge and people
Yeah,
spending money and parking.
yeah, yeah,
And it did. It was really a nice space, beautiful space. Um, Unfortunately, it came up that they didn't have an entertainment license in the end. It was like, what? You've been using this space and you don't have an entertainment license? Okay, well, and they had people living over them who kind of created a little problem. So,
yeah.
but it's still there. That room is still there. It's a really beautiful room.
Mhm.
But that might even be interesting for that bill,
Yeah.
because there are those of us who would love to see that room come back. Okay, so now you're a venue owner and booker.
Yeah.
The booking is challenging, isn't it?
I mean, it's to a certain extent. I mean, it's now I'm like getting emails from people out of town
Yeah.
all the time now. And which is great. Obviously, I can't book everybody that's out of town at the moment, because if they're unknown, you can just
Yeah.
lose money. And I want to book more out of town. I've done a couple out of town people, which is cool. But it's kind of, you have to take it slow. You can't just be booking a bunch of out of town people.
Yeah.
People want to come in with like a quintet and a sextet, and I'm like, wait, hold on, I can't. Hold on, time out. But what I've been doing is kind of doing a lot of these kind of themed shows that kind of been pulling different, like that have been drawing some people, which is nice. Kind of creative way, doing these, this coming week we're doing the music of Sting. And then
Is that with
yeah.
Peter's group or you?
No, but this will be me and some other musicians, but it varies the who. But a couple weeks later, it's Pat Metheny's Off Ramp album, which was released 40 years ago. I've been looking at significant albums that came out 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and doing tributes to that album or tributes to an artist. And that's been kind of successful because people really like that. And they identify with this music from these iconic albums or these artists. So that's been a kind of a cool formula, as well as other people's groups that they come in and they do whatever they do.
Yeah.
But it's a way to bring more attention to people who may not even like necessarily,
As
attend a jazz club, but it's like, oh, but I like this music. You do a,
yeah.
I mean, you do a, Stevie Wonder tribute. I mean, people hear Stevie Wonder,
Yeah.
they're in.
Yeah.
So, it's cool.
That's nice. I wonder if Weather Report would bring a crowd.
Actually, I've been thinking about that. I know Ben Shepherd.
Yeah.
He has a Weather Report tribute band, but they haven't done anything since before pandemic, I believe.
Ah.
And I talked to him because he recorded with me a few years ago on a project of mine, and I talked to him sometime last year. It was at a time where he was only doing like outside gigs. He wasn't doing inside gigs yet.
Yeah.
So I know he has a great group that I would bring down on a heartbeat. But yeah, I'm all about Weather Report, and because a lot. The cool thing about it is you don't hear this music all the time. So people who listen to a lot of Weather Report, they get excited because it's like, whoa, yeah, I'd love to hear this music. I mean, they were an iconic band, iconic.
Totally. Totally.
So yeah, I'm all about that. I'm all about
Oh, Roland,
that.
that's cute. So Roland is a big fan of Zappa, so he always brings up Zappa on my shows. So he said, "How about a tribute album to Zappa?"
A lot of people love Zappa, so that's
There you go, Roland.
yeah,
Could happen.
it could happen.
Yeah, that's cool. That brings to my. I mean, God, that's kind of a luxurious amount of people to pick from, right? I mean,
It gives you a lot of things to consider. You know, we did a tribute to in May um to Lambert Hendricks and Ross.
yeah.
And we did the uh, the album that came out in '62 that the Downbeat called the hottest new group in jazz.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so all
Oh,
of that. Yeah, so we've done some different things. We did that article from George Varga from the Union-Tribune from January came out right before we did this tribute, this Paul Simon tribute,
mm,
and the former LA Times writer saw the article. He knows Paul Simon, and long story short, he they got Paul Simon basically sent me an email one Sunday, and this was the Sunday before the concerts, and we were emailing back and forth for a week, and he was suggesting some songs, some of his like, you know, he was suggesting some of his lesser known songs. It's like because he saw what I was going to be playing. It's like, you're picking all the hits and stuff, which is great, but there's some hidden gems that you might want to consider. So I actually like read
oh,
my set list, and I did some of those. So
wow,
yeah,
that is so cool.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
yeah,
Yeah, Paul Simon songs.
yeah,
Woo, great, just great. And
yeah,
Sting song. I love Sting too. I'm a
yeah, yeah.
big yeah. Um, I have a bucket list thing too that I want to, but this would not work for you. But I want to do Schofield tunes.
Oh, I love Schofield. Oh my gosh, oh gracious, I love Schofield tunes. There when I was those handful of years when I was like getting into jazz, and then I started like taking in everything, and there's some Schofield albums that came out at those couple years that I listened to a lot, and I've seen Schofield live a couple times, but yeah, he's got some great tunes, great
Doesn't
tunes.
man?
Yeah,
Actually, I have a no net project that I'm working on now with John Leftwich. You probably know John.
yeah, I know John Leftwich. Yeah,
Yeah, so he and I have been working on this project, eight musicians and myself, and so I being that I loved Schofield,
yeah,
I have two Schofield tunes on it. "Bill Me," which I
yeah,
wrote lyrics
yeah,
for, and
yeah.
"Do Like Eddie."
Oh, cool.
And I have this group that's called Fish to Birds. It's
Yeah,
like a 6 or 7 piece a cappella improv vocal.
yeah,
So we're going to be doing like a Fish to Birds thing in the middle of Do Like Eddie. We'll do
yeah,
Do Like Eddie. It's all funky and great, and
yeah,
then Fish to Birds, does their thing, and
yeah.
then we finish off.
That's
Cool.
cool. Yeah,
I
go,
love
go.
Schofield. I really do love Schofield. He's just
Yeah,
like, you know, his writing is just cracks me up. He has these real strong heads, clear,
yeah,
strong heads, and then the bridge. Well, except I mean the verse, and then the
yeah,
bridge is always like, "Oh,"
yeah,
and then it comes back to this.
yeah. It's cool. It's cool. Some of yeah, it's his it's yeah. Some of it makes you laugh because it's just the
Yeah,
way he thinks about melodies is very cool.
very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. One time you'll appreciate this. One time I saw him with Seamus Blake.
Yeah.
and with a trio behind them, and they were they were both standing on the stage, and they both started soloing,
Yeah.
and literally physically they started turning outward like this as they were both soloing together.
Yeah.
My brain just like fried at that moment. Oh, I just couldn't believe it.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my God. I saw him last year actually up here.
Oh,
There's a theater, a French theater in West LA,
yeah.
and a lot of people there, people my age too, and great group, really
Yeah.
terrific group, and yeah, he sounded great. It was wonderful. Yeah. There was this bass player too who was playing the shit out of the bass with one finger. He just
Wow.
and I saw that and I was intrigued. Anyway, the drummer was amazing. He sang too, like great.
Wow.
I don't know all these people's names offhand, but
Yeah.
it was a great group, and Schofield he was great.
Of course.
So let's see. So I'm curious about some of your, you know, I've definitely heard about your growth and your path, and I feel like it's really full. And I I'm curious, did you have what you would call mentors along the way, like either I won't say business exactly, but perspective of existence as a musician. Let's just start with that. Did you have a mentor or mentors regarding that? Like how do I? You did mention professionalism a little,
Yeah.
but was that part of what you would consider maybe somebody gave you as a mentorship?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like, the two of the people I mentioned would be, obviously Peter Sprague and
Yeah.
Holly Hoffman, because I, you know, they were part of my early growth. And it's not like it's just, you know, they're mentors because, as a young musician, you respect them and they are always giving and willing. I learned, I mean, early on, I mean, I learned how to, one thing specifically, that gig at the Horton Grand, which was great. And that was the days when making physical flyers, and it was a big thing. And I, at that time, you were able to reserve seats beforehand. You would pay at the door, but you would reserve seats beforehand. So I was able to get it fully booked out before the
Wow.
gig. So it was packed and it was great. But one of the things I learned like early on and quickly, because my charts weren't super clean, and it's not, and so just that was one of the things I learned from Peter early on, is just about the charts. From then on, like I would like, I would make sure, and I was still, that was still hand charts back then. I was making sure I got kind of anal about it with to make good charts.
Yeah.
And I learned things like that from Peter. But it just is people like that, and just anybody that I respected, where you'd ask questions. I mean, people like Bob Magnuson, and just the people who've been there, done that. Mike Wofford, uh, just kind of, they're all mentors in a way, because they've just, you watch them, you see what they do, and that's not just performing, that's even in the studio, just
Yeah.
you it's, so yeah, a lot of different mentors in certain capacities. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you were very fortunate for, you know, for to have so many wonderful people around you, you know.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I'm going to look. I'm kind of looking already.
What are you looking at? What are you looking at?
I'm gonna I'm gonna
Because we can, right? We can look.
exactly. We can do it. We can do anything. So I'm gonna do this because this is one of my favorite songs.
Oh, cool. So this is, can I tell you what this is real quick?
Absolutely.
So obviously with pandemic, um, you know, when there was no gigs and whatnot, you know, it started to become about live streaming. And so there's several of us. I was doing some live streams. My friend Louis, here in town, a great guitarist, he's been doing a lot of live streams, and Peter started doing live streams from the studio.
Yeah.
And so I've done some of those. You know, we've done some cool tributes. This particular one was, you know, the music of Cream, and but we've done Stevie Wonder, we've done Pat Metheny, we've done different ones, and so this was our live. This was live. This is probably I think this was early last year, I believe. I'm not certain.
Uh-huh.
You could probably see the date on the thing. I'm probably way off, but this was what does it say?
2020 November.
Oh, okay. So it was 2020 November. Okay. So yeah. So this was live in the studio.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And now, may I play
Yeah.
it?
Come down off your throne and leave your body alone. Somebody must change. You are the reason I've been waiting so long. Somebody holds the key. Well, I'm near the end, and I just ain't got the time, and I'm wasted, and I can't find my way home. Come Somebody must change. Oh, you are the reason I've been waiting so long. Somebody holds the key. Well, I'm living yet, and I just ain't got time. Ooh, and I'm wasting, and I can't find my way home. Oh, can't find my way home. Can't find my way home. And I 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 can't find my way, can't find my way out. And I can't find my way home.
Yeah.
Whoa. Man, you guys, everyone, take a moment and give it up for Leonard Patton. Whoa. Leonard, I met that guy when he was a little kid, and I thought he had it going on immediately. And we've been singing together forever, and that moment right there, man, that was it. That was so good.
That was definitely it. That's one of my favorite versions. And I even sang it.
That's
That's
it's
one of my favorite
great tune.
versions. Toby, that was live in the studio. That they did that live in the studio, yeah. Right?
Yeah, so that was a whole live stream concert,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's so he's cut different songs and put them on YouTube. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to send you a video that I made from my Social Anthems record.
Oh, cool.
I combined Get Together with Can't Find My Way Home.
Oh, sweet.
Get Together, you know.
Is it the So Groovy Now? No, not that one.
No, it's the
No.
God, I always forget.
Okay.
Come on, people now. It's
Oh,
my
that. Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
then I combined with Can't Find My Way Home
Okay.
at the end, and I made I think I made a nice little video, music video, you know. So I'll
Cool.
send it.
Okay.
But that was an incredible version of it. Wow, really powerful.
Oh, thanks.
How do we hear the replay of your live stream concert?
I think the whole thing is on Peter's website or his YouTube. So I think you can go back and hear the whole concert. Just look for Peter Sprague and then the music of Cream. You should be able to find it.
And Toby, there's the link for that particular song. Maybe that'll help you too.
Yeah, I think you can just go up to at the top where it says Peter Sprague or Spragueland, I forget which one.
Yeah.
And you should be able to find many of his live streams, a lot of good ones.
You know which one I had up there like forever? It must have been for a month or two. I was playing it every day. Was that Paul Simon's?
Oh yeah.
The dancing one with the the female singer who was so great. I can't remember her
I
name.
think that was that
Allison who?
Allison Adams Tucker. Was that her?
No.
It's a different. He's done it a couple times. I forget that it's a different singer. Then I forget which one that he did.
I tried to get her on the show actually, but she had a straight gig too. So
Okay.
she was wonderful. But it was
Yeah.
um don't call me what's that song? Da 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 talk about da da you know,
Oh yeah. My brain. uh,
that was such a killer version. I played it every day.
cool.
It was great. Very inspiring, for the
Yeah.
day, man. Just
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Isn't that song Can't Find My Way Home just, I mean, as Roland said, yeah, it's so
Yeah.
ingrained in you, like if you grew up with it,
Yeah.
it was so connected to your heart and what was going
Yeah.
on in the world at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Of course,
good.
you probably
It's
weren't, I don't know if you might not have been born yet.
born the year it came out, like 69, was it?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I was like I was let's see, how old was I? I was in my late teens or something, mid late teens or something. And
No, no,
that was
you.
when society was just kind of cracking open,
Yeah.
and the political stuff had been happening for a few years, because when I was probably 10, I think Kennedy got shot.
Yeah.
So it had started cracking open. And then the groups like Blind Faith and all those groups started coming out with these heavy songs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, music is such a reflection of what's going on. I always, I always say that in another world, we the artists would have been utilized as the reflectors of society, and then the
Yeah.
government would take our lead and do things according to what what's happening.
Yeah.
I think somebody should make a movie like that. I think it's just such a great idea.
I'm I'm sure it's already being done.
Probably because you know how the muse is. The muse is not singular.
Let me start on it.
So what do you do with a typical day? You have a lot of plates to juggle.
um, it my typical day. It varies. I mean, it's sometimes there's a rehearsal. Sometimes there's a recording session. Um, Sometimes I've got to write charts or make arrangements for things. Sometimes I gotta learn music for something that I gotta do. It's like, oh yeah, I got this music I gotta work on. I gotta figure out how to like
Yeah.
make the time to do that. So it varies. Then sometimes I'm really going out of town, like next week.
Yeah,
Uh, Sometimes I try to protect certain days. Like I have a day that's pretty much off, so like on a Monday or something, I try to protect it and not do too much. Um, I try to keep my workouts going. I try to work out at the gym every day, and I usually work out with my son. Just doing. My boys are grown. I have a 21-year-old, and a 20-year-old, and then my daughter's 16. So I still try to do stuff with them when I can. We go to the Padres games, and I try to stay busy. I don't actually try to stay busy. Actually, I try to be unbusy because the busyness
yeah,
it's there. I
yeah,
try to stay busy. That's a given.
yeah, yeah. I know that feeling. You try and be simple, try and
Yeah,
simplify, because yeah, things just go, hello,
yeah,
do
yeah,
me. Yeah, yeah, I know that feeling. Um, and it's a question of balance, and yeah, how do you want to live your life? I mean, when you were, and I've talked about this with a lot of people, when you're in your 20s maybe, you could do everything and you could
Yeah.
stay awake all night and then get
Oh
up
my gosh.
and sing the next day and,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It changes over the years.
It's like, man, like getting to sleep at 4 or 5 in the morning and then like, what? Oh my gosh.
It
Not anymore. No.
was a good time. I
Yeah.
was very, I don't know about you, but I was very um, rebellious and free at that time. And I
Wow.
was like, things would present themselves to me that might have been kind of crazy. And
Yeah.
other people might not have done them, but I
Yeah.
did them because I thought I'm never going to get this opportunity again. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
presenting itself to me, so I
Yeah.
have to do it.
Yeah. 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 You got memories now.
Exactly.
Stories, memories and stories.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to talk about them, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I should.
The whole other show. That's
Exactly.
that's where you share your own stories. You take 2 hours and you just
Exactly. You're a teacher as well, right?
yeah, I teach. I don't have any a regular teaching gig. I've taught classes here and there at certain colleges. Just here and there, and I do private teaching. So I do. Then I teach jazz camp, 2 weeks of a jazz camp here every summer. So always teaching in some capacity. Uh, yeah, always.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little. Leonard and I share a student actually, who's
Yeah,
15, and she lives in San Diego. And Leonard sees her in person, I think, right?
yeah,
And I see her online. And but yeah, so we've talked a little bit about teaching because we're it's cool that we're both teaching this
yeah,
girl, and
yeah,
we can utilize each other's ideas and emphasize certain things that
yeah.
are helpful to her. But um, yeah, what is your do you have an overall teaching philosophy, or is it just like really? I mean, of course, every student is particular, right? And
Yeah,
since we're empathetic, we obviously get into their perspective and
yeah,
how they learn, what they need, all those kind
yeah.
of. But do you have an overall teaching philosophy?
Not so much. I think you just said it. I think no matter where you come from and how you teach, you have to be able to adapt to the um who you're teaching. Because you can be teaching the same technique, whatever, to two different people, but how you approach it, it's not one size fits all. Because people do learn differently, and people get frustrated. Some people are very visual learners. Some people are auditory, and um, you have to kind of figure out how to adapt to that person so they don't get frustrated on their end
Yeah.
in that process of learning. It's less about the what and more about the how, because the what is the easy part. The
Yeah.
what you're trying to teach, that's the easy part, and you can have it broken down in so many different ways. And then somebody's just they're confused. I my main thing is breaking things down in small elements. It's
Yeah.
kind of like math. The way you master math is hard. In the grand scheme of things, math is hard. You have to break it down. So like, you can't learn math if you can't do simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Like, everything starts from that place. Same thing with whether it's vocal technique or whether it's improv technique, whatever. Music itself as a whole is difficult. But learning a language is difficult. You listen to a language like, wow, they're speaking a lot of words, like 50 miles a minute. But you break things down in small elements. Like, no, don't try to get everything.
Yeah.
Yes, absorb it, listen to it, and try to absorb listen to music. You're not gonna get all of it, but that your ear's going to start taking it in. But when you're practicing, it's like small chunks, pieces, and then put it together the whole. So for me, it's when you can give something that's attainable to people, it's a lot easier. It's like, just work on, just focus on this, and focus on this, and focus on this. I always, look at, okay, you're working on a standard, a 32 bar standard, AABA form. You only really have two sections. The three A's are pretty much the same. Sometimes there might be one chord that's different going into the bridge, but for the most part, they're three the same. Then you have this bridge that's different. So let's focus on that. And the first four measures of this tune happens 3 times. So, let's just loop that and there's just, I think, to break things down into small attainable elements. I think some people are just, try to learn things from the whole, and it's like, well, no, you got to break it down. That goes for like sight reading too. It's like, people who sight read incredibly, it's like, if you've never played triplets and practice triplets, you're not going to read triplets either. Yeah. You're not going to sing triplets. If you don't practice triplets, or if you don't practice certain rhythmic patterns, they're never going to come up.
Yeah.
And if you, as a sight reader, if you've never practiced that, when you see it, it's going to look foreign because you're not going to ever be able to do it. So they do that over and over and over. So anytime they see it, it's automatic. And so it's kind of, that's my main thing, is how do we break it down into small elements and where they don't get frustrated. Like, you can do this. This is, we put it in the whole context later.
Yeah. And like we know, half of it is a head trip, and it doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 15, you can be, I have a student who's probably in her late 60s or early 70s, and they're both, they can both be frustrated, and it's kind of the same thing, exactly what you're talking about. It's like my older student, has these particular ideas of what is going on, but they have to do with how she feels about her previous learning, and her current learning, and her need to impress, jazz people and stuff. Telling her that kind of really getting it in there, that if she, because I've been going over it with her musically, and she has it inside of her, but it comes up and gets blocked because of these other things. So it's like every time you see a triplet, if you haven't done the work, shuts off, right? And so that's what I said, so listen to this video and you have the chart for this video of someone singing this song, and look at the chart and follow the chart. Well, I can't really do that because, I'm freaked out. That's okay. It's okay.
Okay to be freaked. Yeah.
Just look at the chart while it's going on, and just like the third time through, you're going to notice something, and then the fifth time through, you're going to go, oh yeah, actually, oh, I get it, And I think the issue of not minding the bad, like the bad is part of.
It's part of it.
It's part of everything, right?
It's part of it. It's like, you can't be afraid of bad notes. You can't be afraid of anything. You let it go. You refine those as you go. And it's like, you want to, you can't expect everything to just come out perfectly. And what is perfect anyway?
Yeah, really.
What is that? What is that?
Obviously, perfect for you is the same as perfect for me, which is honest, really. That's
Yeah, it's
when
honest.
you know when it comes
honest.
out honestly,
Yep.
and that takes you know, a perspective, a spiritual and mental perspective to
Hmm.
reach. It's
Yeah.
not so much, you have to do your homework for
Yeah,
the
of
music,
course.
but it's not, that's not really the focus, strangely enough, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are some of your favorite singers?
Oh,
Jazz singers
I
we're talking about.
I to an
Who are alive? Let me put it that way.
who are alive. Okay, because I can go back. I mean,
Yeah,
I like so many.
yeah,
Um, I'm gosh, I'm I love. I'm a Kurt Elling fan. I'm a Diane Reeves. Um, I, I, I'm a huge Bobby McFerrin
yeah,
nut. Um, I I I I like, I like some of the newer people out there, like some of the young people like Jasmine Horn. I
Samurai,
kind of, huh?
Samurai Joy.
Yeah, I like so many. There's a lot of great ones that I just listen to, and I kind of take from. When I started getting into this, in the early '90s, I started listening to a lot of Cassandra Wilson.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was in fact I was listening. I remember before her album, that Blue Light Till Dawn album came out in like '92.
yeah,
That put her like
yeah.
I I I
That was
I,
a
I
beautiful album.
that was a beautiful
Yeah,
album, and it was like and I also credit her and that album to kind of set this trend for newer modern singers. I think that was really an iconic album and period where like a lot of singers
yeah,
kind of followed through, because I think up until till then there was kind of like a little dull period with singers for a little while, and that happens. I mean, they're always around, but I just think that is from the standpoint of
it's kind
just
of a mixed, like the mixture came together.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
when I have interviewed Flora Purim,
yeah,
I didn't even, I swear I didn't even think about that she was a leader in modern vocal jazz.
yeah, oh yeah,
I didn't even think about it. I mean, I was totally taken with her because it was the
yeah,
time,
yeah,
and that was the
yeah,
time I was in college.
yeah,
But I didn't even get it until I spoke to her, and then I was like, oh, God, she was like one of the leaders, you know?
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And maybe at the time everybody didn't see it or think about it
Yeah,
until like later, and
yeah,
it's like um I think there's reasons for that. There are different, um but I think you're right, and I think there's those period, and there's people in different periods of time who are those kind of forward thinking, how do you stand out, kind of thing. And going back to Cassandra Wilson, I was listening, me and my friends, we would listen to all these records. We were just listening to jazz records, and she was part of that M Bass collective from the '80s. You know about the M Bass collective?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So like Steve Coleman and Jerry Allen, and so they were just the collective. This was doing this music, and some of it was very interesting. Some of it was a little bit avant-garde. Some of it was grooving, and it was cool. So I was listening to some of that, and then like before that other album came out, and again, that's kind of what made her kind of put her stamp on things. And so yeah, I that was influential. This album, the '92, what's the name of the album that Diane Reeves came from?
um,
Um, standards. What the heck?
I don't remember.
My brain can't think. I remember because you were interviewing Kenny Washington. It was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I was there listening, and Diane Reeves was on. And I remember, like, we had a little conversation. I mentioned that album. My brain can't think of the name of the album, but that album to me was a huge influence on me early on. It was an incredible album. So I like a lot of different singers. You know, honestly, when I was first getting into jazz, I kind of was taken in everything. So it wasn't, you know, I was like into the singers, and I was into the horn players, and I was into the piano players, and I was into the drummers. I was just kind of like, I love it. I love it all.
I love everything.
I love everything. It was, there's so many different albums that to me are like influential, and so many artists, you know, that I was introduced to Pat Metheny, and my world was like blown, because the thing about Pat Metheny, he was my gateway. I call it my gateway drug into people like into Michael Brecker and to Charlie Hayden and to and Billy Higgins and Jack DeJohnette. So then I'm like, oh my goodness. You know, you start with one artist, and like then you start learning about all these other artists, and that's kind of, you know, it's a nice little rabbit hole.
Mind blowing, right?
Mind
I know. First of all, I have to say, Paul Jost. Are you familiar with Paul Jost?
Yeah.
He's really, you would love Paul personally and musically. He's just a cool, ethical guy, committed.
Yeah.
You know, just damn musical, just incredible. And I think I actually sent you or Peter my Pat Metheny songs, because with Pat's blessings, I wrote lyrics to one of his songs. Such a beautiful song.
Well, we have a lady in town named Randy Phillips who's written bunch of lyrics. So we've done a bunch of those tunes. Speaking of Pat Metheny, so let me just tell you a little Pat Metheny story. So we did over the years, we've done the music of Pat Metheny with Peter over the years multiple times. So one of our live streams in 2020 was like September of 2020, I believe. We did the music of Pat Metheny, and what Peter was doing was getting different artists to contribute. So he did something, and he's toured occasionally with Diane Reeves. So he got her to do something remotely. And so he was doing that. So he knows Pat.
Yeah.
He studied with Pat a little bit way back in the day. And anytime Pat comes into town concert, he always gives Peter tickets, and Peter always calls me. So I've seen, got seen him, and I'd met him multiple times. But so he asked Pat about being involved somehow in the live stream, and Pat's told Peter, well, how about this? I wrote this new tune, and how about you guys play it and kind of debut it? So we learned this new tune that Pat had written that had never been performed, and we got to be the first ones to play it.
Oh. So
this was, again, I think September 2020. Okay, fast forward March 2021. I'm coming out of a rehearsal for something, and Peter left me a message on my phone, and he said, I checked the message. He said, Leonard, you got to call me back. Best thing that could happen is it actually happened. So I called Peter and said, hey, Pat wants us to do a gig with him next year being 2022. This private gig thing using the same band that played for this thing. So
Wow.
super exciting, and of course we're, March of 2021, or March of 2021, supposed to happen March 2022. And of course, it's a long way off. You're excited, but it's like, and you don't know with how things are getting canceled. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's like, time goes on, and it's like, it comes last January, emails start going out. It's actually happening. And so we're like trying to figure out like the music. So it's basically what it was. It was in Newport Beach, a private thing where, this guy basically paid a lot of money to have Pat come play for his wife's 60th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of, I don't know if you know, there's this guy, I don't even know if he's still alive, but it's not the same person, but he had a similar situation where he had Paul McCartney play a private thing like 7-8 years ago. And then also Rolling Stones, he rented out the Belly Up.
Oh my God.
And paid like 2.7 million for the Rolling Stones, crazy. So
Wow.
people,
actually, at the place that I booked,
yeah,
this guy booked the Yellow Jackets to play for his birthday party.
There we go. So there's
And
people who
he played piano with them.
Oh wow. He's like, I'm gonna play with the Yellow Jackets. Yeah, so all of that to say, got to play a gig with Pat Metheny.
Wow.
And sing some of these tunes that I've been singing for years and years. Got to actually do it with him. So that's pretty crazy.
That's amazing. And so the newer song, is that now recorded somewhere, or?
That's only on our live stream. It hasn't been recorded on an album. We actually
What's the name of the song?
Oh my gosh, I have to go back. Well,
you can let me know, because I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. I have to go back I can find it and find the title, but it's when you get to play with one of your heroes, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's such a good story. I love that story. Yeah, it's great. It's yeah, I was talking this week, I was talking with the drummer Matt Wilson from the East Coast, and he's played with, hundreds and hundreds of people, all over the map. And and what struck me so nice about it was every conversation we had kept going back to his desire and love for connecting to community.
Yeah.
That was all of it. Every subject we talked about, every story, it all went back to that. And so again, like we were talking about perspectives, that perspective that's the thing to focus on, how to be alive and honor life and God and music and each other, and know that we're all part of the same, creation, and so, but Pat, when I was at Berkeley, actually, so I don't know if he was still around. Let me center myself. The guitar teacher whose name I don't know if I'm going to remember. He was at Berkeley. He was a very unique, strong guitar player in a more modern way. He didn't gain as much fame as he could have, but guitarists all over the world know him.
Was it Mick Goodrick?
Yes, Mick Goodrick. So this one night in a emptied out storefront in Cambridge, Mick and Pat played. And
Wow.
like about 20 of us.
Wow.
sitting around and just, being part of what was going on.
Wow,
Of course, that was a
that's
long time ago, and Pat was
crazy,
a baby. I've told him that story.
crazy.
Yeah. But
Wow.
yeah, so much of the beautiful music is great, and I've always loved the guitarists. I wrote some lyrics to a John Abercrombie song too that
Yeah,
I loved, and
yeah.
yeah, it's just guitarists are so cool.
I, I do.
Well, it's been 2 hours, and thank you so much for your time. It's been just
Yeah.
really very gracious of you to do this, and um, really fun to get to know you more. And yeah, uh, who knows? Sometime I'll come down to San Diego and hang out. You never know.
Yes.
It could happen.
Come on. It
I
could
think
happen.
about it.
Why not?
Yeah, if I do, I'm definitely calling you and Peter, and we're gonna hang.
There we go. Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Thanks so much. Should anyone watching, especially nearer to San Diego, should they know something's coming up, like a live gig or, well, you're going to Colorado.
Yeah. So I'll be going to Colorado on Sunday. I'm doing the Sting tribute week at the Jazz Lounge, and then I'm going to Colorado. And then there's just a bunch of various stuff going on for the rest of the year. It's
Do you guys stream from the Jazz Lounge?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
so we could actually watch the Sting thing.
yeah,
Can
yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, how do we do it? And just go.
So you can there's two ways you can do it. You can do it. We stream it from the Jazz Lounge Facebook page, or you can go directly to the website and click on the watch live stream, and you can watch it directly from the website. So, and it's also the stream is actually from YouTube. So the third way is actually you can go to the Jazz Lounge YouTube. So there's really three ways you can watch the live stream. And we live stream most shows. Sometimes if we do a lot of shows where we do like 2 or 3 of the same
Yeah.
night. We got 3 nights of the Sting. So we may not stream all 3, but we actually have different musicians each time. So I might actually stream all 3 just
Cool.
yeah.
Is
So
is it
3 ways.
donations too?
You can do if you want to do donations online, we have the donation link so people can do donations. Yeah.
Okay, great. And let's see. So, what nights this week?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come one of those nights. I'm
Right on.
looking forward to it.
Yay.
So, okay. Well, have fun. Have a great
Yes.
time in Colorado on the road, and
You.
I hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes, you will. You will.
Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow is David Jackson. Leonard, you probably don't know David, I guess, but he's a bass player. He's one of those guys who's played. He plays and sings, and he's played with a lot of kind of crossover people. And he's pretty well known for his playing and his
Yeah.
recording.
Cool.
And then Wednesday, a drummer who I actually originally, well, he went to Berkeley, but then I kind of hooked up with him in Japan,
Oh,
and
wow.
living in Japan. His name is Tommy Campbell, and he
Oh,
now lives in New York.
cool.
So those are the live people this week, and then of
Sweet.
course archives Thursday through Sunday.
Right
So
on.
thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Yep.